We're going to start chapter 3. This is on independence. Probably the most difficult chapter in the book, or one of them anyways. And then we'll finish the classical sampling. Okay, so today we'll start in on the independence. We won't finish it, and then we'll start the classical sampling. Just to let you guys know, I'm really sick. So if I keep turning off the screen, that's because I'm going to sneeze or something. But we should get through most of this. Okay, so today we're going to go through chapter 3, ethics. And ethics is huge. For the auditing section of the CPA exam, about 20% of it's on ethics, which is surprising to some people. But you got to realize that we give credibility to the financial statements. So we have to be, for instance, independent. We have to be upstanding people and all that kind of stuff to do that. And we cannot be, and this is very important, I'll write this in a second, we cannot be advocates for the client. We can't be advocate. We can't tell somebody this is a great client. They're really good, and all. You can't do that. You can give them the financial statements and let them make their own decision about whether. But we only report on the financial statements, and we have to be independent. We cannot be making decisions for the client. We cannot be doing management things for the client to do this. We have to be independent. And some people say, well, why don't the auditors just do the financial statements? Because we want to be independent. We need to have that independence, that we're objective when we look at something. Okay. So one of the things is who needs to be independent and at a higher level. And they call these people covered members. And a covered member is somebody who has influence over the audit. That's the basic idea behind covered member. Covered member means that they're covered by the independence rules. Okay, and it's specific to different groups of people. And let me get back to the Handout. Now, the AICPA talks about independence as far as what we talked about before, that in a CPA firm, the positions are partner, manager, senior, and associate. And again, I think I told you, even if a CPA firm does say, well, we don't use those categories, well, they have to, every position, they have to figure out which one of these it goes into. So even if the CPA firm isn't organized this way, for this, for independence, you have to, for each position, determine which one they are. Okay, so who needs to be independent? The first group is anyone who's on the audit team. So anyone who's on the audit team needs to be independent. So if you're doing the audit, you must be independent. Now, in the audit engagement office, so this is the audit engagement office. This is the office where they're doing the audit. All of the partners in that office are also called covered members. And we're going to find out they have their own set of rules, these covered members. Okay, so the first group is the audit engagement team. Second group are the partners in the audit engagement office. Okay, coming down here, non-attest services, things like consulting, taxes, those sort of things that are not audits, not attested an audit, so not auditing. So non-attest services. Oops. Only the partner and manager must be independent. And so you see this down here. And these are really kind of the core people that are really looked at as, this is the most people that you'll find that of the covered members who become a covered member. Okay, so covered members is important. Covered members, anyone who's doing the audit, what they call the attest engagement. Anyone who's doing the audit is a covered member. Any partner in that office is a covered member. Consulting, if it's a different office, it could be a different office, it could be the same office. If they're doing consulting, only the managers and partners must be independent. Seniors and the associates, the one, the people who are not, who are below manager, they do not have to follow the covered member rules. Okay, so those are the people that are generally called covered members. They're going to be held to a higher standard. Now, there is kind of a wacky rule. Non-attest service people are covered only if they perform 10 hours or more of service in a year. These are referred to as 10-hour people. So they have to do at least 10 hours of work. And usually you look at billable hours. They bill for 10 hours worth of work. So if a client called up about a tax issue and it took 2 hours to figure out, that person's not a covered member. If they billed out for 15 hours in a year, then they are. So 10-hour people. These are called 10-hour people. The non-attest, consulting kind of stuff, 10-hour people. Okay. All right. So there are some other people who are also covered members. Anyone who's in a position to influence the audit. So anyone not listed up there who can influence the audit is also a covered member. So it might be a senior partner or something that oversees several offices. They're considered a covered member. The CPA firm itself is a covered member, including employees' benefit plan. So for instance, if we're auditing IBM, we cannot have IBM in our employee benefit, in our, our retirement plan or whatever. So the firm itself also needs to be independent. This next one's kind of to close up a loophole. Any entity that is controlled by covered members. And it goes by the percentage of control of all the covered members. So for instance, if 3 members get together and form an investment organization, and each one of them can say, well, wait, I'm not in charge. I only got 1/3 interest. I only got 33% of this. I don't control it. It takes all of the covered members together. So if all 3 of those people are covered member, actually if 2 of those people are covered member, it'll be more than 50%, and that'll be considered a covered member itself. So any organization that is controlled by covered members as a whole, those are also considered to be covered members. So if they have an investment thing that they have split 3 ways, all 3 of them are partners, that's a covered member. 2 of them, covered member. If there's one that's a covered member and the other 2 people are not, then it's not a covered member. So if it's controlled by covered members, it's a covered member. All right. All right. Let's see how this works out. All right, direct financial interest. Direct financial interest in the client is not allowed even if the direct financial interest is immaterial to the covered member. Let me clean that up a little bit. So direct financial interests are not allowed. So you cannot have no stocks, bonds. You can't make loans to the business. So no direct financial interest is allowed, even if it's immaterial. So you can't have any investment in the client directly. Question on that? So one share of stock will knock you out. You're no longer independent. Indirect financial interest. Nah. Okay, indirect financial interests are only allowed if they are immaterial to the covered member. Okay, this one's a good one for examples. Examples. Okay, with indirect financial interest. Um, investment in a Standard & Poor's 500 fund. Let me clean this up. Has an investment. Okay, so Standard & Poor's 500 fund. Actually, this could be any fund, but I'm just using this as an example. So Standard & Poor's 500 fund. Standard & Poor's 500 fund, they're very common. What they do is they take money and they invest in the 500 largest companies usually the 500 largest companies listed on some stock exchange. They'll have periods of time for it and all that. Okay, well, you can invest in a Standard & Poor's 500 fund. So you actually buy shares of the 500 fund. The Standard & Poor's 500 fund then goes and buys the stock. So let's say we're auditing IBM. IBM is probably, I'm sure, IBM is one of the top 500 companies. So IBM would be in one of those 500 companies. So if you bought into the Standard & Poor's 500 fund, one of those 500 companies would be IBM. Now, think about it for a second, though. It's only 1 out of 500. So what happens to IBM probably doesn't really matter too much about the fund. Whether it jumped up in price or fell down in price probably doesn't matter too much because there's 499 other companies. So a mutual fund, where you put money in, you buy shares of the fund, and then the fund goes and buys the stock. That is indirect. You're not buying the stock. You're buying the Standard & Poor's 500 fund. The 500 fund will then go buy IBM stock and a bunch of other 499 other companies. Okay, so that's indirect, and something like the Standard & Poor's 500 fund would absolutely be okay for someone to invest in. Again, very small amount will be for IBM. Okay. By the way, the client is always the person you're doing this is who you're auditing. So investment in a bank that loans money to the client. And again, the client is who you're auditing. Your client is who they come to you for an audit. They want audit, you have to be independent. And so that's why we're worried about this. Okay, investment in a bank. So let's say that I invest in Bank One. Bank One lends money to IBM. It's indirect, right? I invest in Bank One. Bank One lends money to IBM. There's someone in the middle. I'm not actually loaning money to IBM directly. I have this bank. I invest in the bank. Now they probably loan money to lots of people. So it probably isn't material that they're loaning money to IBM. They probably have many people they loan money to. Okay, now Indirect, though, you have to be careful. It is possible to have an indirect interest that is material. It's not that all of them are immaterial. You could have one that is. If a large percentage of, let's say you invest in a mutual fund that invests in tech stocks, and maybe they have a large investment in IBM, it could be material. If it is material, it's a no-no. All right, so let's take a look-see here. Okay, cases. Gina is a member of the audit engagement team. Okay, let's stop right there. Is Gina a covered member or not? Hey, you guys are sleeping. You can put it in chat if you want. So is Gina a member of the Gina's a member of the audit engagement team. Is she a covered member? Oh, come on. It's not that hard a question. Is Gina a covered member? Someone flip a coin. Say yes or no. You can put it in chat. You can put it in chat and you can private it to me so I won't do no one will see it. While you're doing that, I'm gonna
Covered.
yes. Yes, she is a covered member. So she is a covered member. She owns 5 shares of IBM stock. Let's make that yellow. Is that a direct or indirect interest, financial interest?
That would be direct.
Yep. Okay, and the ownership is immaterial to Gina. Well, she's immaterial here. Yeah, how come that one green? It should be. Okay, it's a direct interest. It's a member, direct interest, and it's immaterial. Is Gina in violation of the independence rules?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, no direct interest. This is a no-no. It's not allowed. So yes, she's in violation of the rules. Okay. I gotta be spaced out so big here. Greg is a member of the audit engagement team for IBM. Okay, so Greg a covered member? Actually, yeah, just like as a member of the audit engagement team, they are a covered member. Oh wait, that should be green. See, I'm sick and I'm making more mistakes than usual even. Okay, so this is covered member. He has an investment in a Standard & Poor's 500 mutual fund. Because IBM is in the Standard & Poor's 500, the mutual fund has a direct interest in IBM. Okay, is this a direct interest or an indirect?
That's indirect.
Yeah. Yeah, the he invests in the 500 fund. The 500 fund it has direct interest, but he doesn't have direct interest. He just has it in a 500 fund, and there's 499 other companies in it. And is this most likely going to be immaterial or immaterial? 1 out of 500.
Immaterial.
So there's nothing wrong with this. Is Greg in violation?
No.
No. It's indirect. And it's immaterial. Helen is not a member of the audit engagement for IBM. However, she is a senior in the engagement office and owns 500 shares of IBM stock. This investment is material to Helen. Okay, so Helen is not on the engagement team for IBM. She is a senior in the office, though. Is she a covered member?
Yes.
Actually, no.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, let's go up here. So she's a senior. If she's a senior and she's not on the engagement team, if she's on the engagement team, then she is. But if she's, whatever, if you're a senior, let's say she's senior 1, not a covered member. So if they're not a covered member, these rules do not apply. Now, not a covered member, it's a direct interest. When they tell us it's material, is Helen in violation of the rules? No, not a covered member. Then they have to follow those rules. So not being a covered member means that these rules don't apply to you. And so think about that for just a second, that, what we're really talking about is, these people are not covered members. They don't have to follow these rules. And even down here, these are not. And actually, if you're a senior and you're on the non-attest services engagement, even though you're on the engagement, you still are not a covered member. It doesn't apply to it. So you could be a senior and have 500 shares of stock, and there's no problem with that.
If she was a partner in the engagement office, then would she be a covered member?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
If she was a partner, it'd definitely be a covered member. It's these other ones that are, only the engagement team, anything under partner, only the engagement team is going to be a covered member. And the idea is this: she's not in the audit. She is a senior in the senior auditor, but she's not in the audit. Can't influence the audit. So, the idea is that she's not a covered member. We'll find out later that there are some rules for those people, but if they're not a covered member, the covered member rules don't apply. Okay. Excuse me. Immediate family members. All right, so this is what happens when someone says, okay, I know, I'm not going to invest. I'll take my IBM stock, I'll give it to my spouse, or I'll give it to my boyfriend or girlfriend, or I'll give it to my kid. Then it's okay. Well, immediate family members are considered the covered member themselves. So the immediate family member, whoever it is, spouse, child, whatever, they're considered the same as the covered member. The covered member will be non-independent if any of those people. And if you think about who is considered this, basically it's whoever you see when you go home at night. So here's what it is. Spouses, spousal equivalents. Excuse me. And dependent children. So these are the people that are considered to be the same as the covered member themselves. And spousal equivalents could be, it could be gay marriage. It could be a common law marriage, even though maybe for taxes they don't recognize it. We do. Boyfriends or girlfriends, could also be considered spousal equivalents. And we'll find out that dependent children makes a difference. It's a difference if it is there's different rules for people who are dependents, kids, usually when you go home, and non-dependent children, someone who's already moved out. They moved out with their life, whatever. Those are called non-dependent children, and those have a different set of rules we'll see later. But dependent children, basically, this is for anyone when you go home. Who's there when you go home at night. Basically, is what we're looking at here. We might talk a little bit about the international rules, but the rules we're going to talk about right now are going to be the U.S. rules. These are the ones we're looking at. The international rules are a little bit kooky. Okay. Sharon is a member of the engagement team for IBM. Okay, so Sharon is a covered member. She's a member of the audit engagement team. She does not own any shares of IBM stock, but her husband owns 10,000 shares of IBM stock. Okay, is the investment direct or indirect? It's direct. Now, at this point, you say, well, the 10,000 shares, is that material to her husband? It actually doesn't matter. Because even if it's immaterial, she's in violation of the rules. If her husband owned one share of IBM stock, materiality doesn't really matter. Covered member, direct interest, materiality doesn't matter. I'd have to think that 10,000 shares would be material. I don't know. I think it's trading at like $100. It'd be like $1 million worth of stock. But anyway, she is in violation of the rules. Her spouse is considered the same as herself. All right, Steve is a member of the audit engagement team for IBM. Okay. So Steve's a covered member. He does not own any shares of IBM stock, but his dependent daughter owns an immaterial amount of IBM stock. Okay. Does the dependent daughter is her investment direct or indirect?
That'd be direct, right?
Yep. And again, once we figure that out, we do not have to go any further. Covered member, direct interest, that's a no-no. It doesn't matter whether it's material or not material. Hey. Hey. Okay. All right. Jolene is a member of the audit engagement team. She is not on any shares of stock, but her husband has a large investment in a technology fund. 40% of the technology fund's holdings are in IBM stock. Okay, well, Jolene is a covered member. And anything her family does is considered to be, on her. So her husband has this interest. Is it direct or indirect?
Would that be direct too, since it's such a large portion of IBM?
It'll actually be indirect, but it'll probably be material.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see it.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's because it's a large portion of it. So it's indirect. It'll be material. Now, indirect are only allowed if they are immaterial. I gotta go all the way back. So indirect are, if as long as they're immaterial, it's okay. But 40% is a pretty good chunk of the of the investment. So this would probably be material. And is Joe in violation of the rules? Yes. Even though it's indirect, it's probably material. Especially considering that it's a large investment. They don't go into how large, I guess, but it's assumed that it's material. By the way, the CPA exam, they hit this stuff all the time. Okay. Close relatives and friends. All right, well, we all know who friends are, so I'm not going to go into that, but who are close relatives? Close relatives are parents, siblings, non-dependent children, those probably cover most of it. And but there's also this thing of friends here though too. So you may have somebody who is not a parent, a sibling, and not a parent, who are considered close relatives and friends. Okay. So the big ones that we have here though are going to be parents, brothers and sisters, non-dependent children. So children that have moved out. I got to put the rules down here. Okay. So close relatives and friends. So here's the rules for to apply to these people. Let me change this. Direct financial interests are allowed if they are immaterial. So you have a dependent child that owns one share of stock, it doesn't matter whether it's material or not. Non-dependent child, someone who's moved out, as long as it's immaterial, it's fine. Here's the wacky one. Material direct financial interest are allowed if investment is unknown to the covered member. Okay, direct financial interest, actually any financial interest, as long as if it's immaterial, is allowed. Even material ones, though, are allowed if they're unknown. And this kind of goes to, who we consider close relatives and friends. You may have a brother or sister you haven't talked to in 20 years for whatever reason, or parents you haven't talked to in 20 years, whatever. So you don't know what they're invested in. Maybe you haven't even talked to them, that period of time, whatever it is. So if it's unknown and it's material, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to influence you. You don't even know about it. And we don't have to track down relatives that maybe we don't want to talk to, or maybe they don't want to talk to us, and ask them about what their investments are. If it's unknown to you, then it's not going to influence the audit. So if it's unknown, material is okay as long as it is unknown to the covered member. Okay. Wanda is a member of the audit engagement team. So Wanda's a covered member. She does not own any shares of IBM stock, but knows that her sister owns 500 shares. The IBM stock investment is immaterial to her sister. Okay, 500. Your sister owns 500 shares of IBM stock. Is that direct or indirect?
It's direct.
Yeah, direct. And they tell us it's immaterial. Is she in violation of the rules?
No, she's not.
Nope. No, they can have a direct financial interest. Close, and again, it depends on if they're a close relative and friends. They're allowed to have direct financial interest as long as it's not material. Stacy is a member of the audit and engagement team for IBM. She does not own any stock. Here, let me jump ahead here. So Stacy, covered member. She does not own any IBM stock, but knows that her brother owns 300 shares. The IBM stock investment is material to her brother. Is Stacy in violation of the rules?
Yeah, she is.
Yep. And again, it does, it matters. It depends on who owns it as far as what, up here, maybe her sister's a, multi-millionaire or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but this could be like the only investment down here for her brother. So it depends on the individual of what is material or not. Lawrence, member of the audit engagement team for IBM. His father has a material investment in IBM stock. Lawrence does not know about his father's investment. Okay, so covered member. Direct interest. And it's material. Is Lawrence in violation of the rules?
No, because she doesn't know about the investment.
Exactly. Nope. Doesn't know about it. May is a member of the audit engagement team for IBM. So May is a covered member. She does not own any shares, but her mother has a material investment in IBM stock. May knows about the investment. And asks her mother to sell it. Her mother refuses to sell the IBM stock. Okay. Covered member, direct interest, and it's material. Is May in violation of the independence rules? What do you think?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, this is actually a kind of a quirky one. I know there's been actually lawsuits about this, someone getting, because this is basically denying their right to work through no fault of their own. So there actually is I know that there have been lawsuits. I don't know exactly what the rulings are for them and how they get decided, but it is possible, that again, you're into this situation, the mom's not going to sell the stock. Thanks a lot, Mom. But yeah, so she is in violation of the independence rules. And by the way, just so you know, when you go to work for a CPA firm, what they usually do is they bring you in, they say, okay, here's all the clients we have. We list, do you own any investment in those? And if you do, you got to sell it. So that's usually what they do. And they usually do it for the entire office. The reason being is that there might be someone gets switched from one audit to another audit or something like that. You might get switched on to maybe initially you were not a covered member, but then you get switched on to it, so you are. So they generally will hand out a list saying, is there anything, or do you have a direct investment in any of these? And if you do, get rid of it. Okay. I think I'm going to stop here. I think we'll come back and do the wacky spacing that we got here. So let's stop here. And we'll come back. Let's say be back. Let me pull up the last thing we're going to do, classical sampling. And we'll say be back at .301. So sorry, people. All right. Well, let's go ahead and finish these up. These shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. Oops. Unless I type incorrectly. It'll take longer. And by the way, this is kind of like how they show it to you on the CPA exam. This is more like what you would see. They won't do it incorrectly like I just did, but they will show it to you. Okay. So I think we already did the last part, didn't we? No, we did. Okay, never mind. So let's take a look here. So this is our audit average and our book average. I'll put that down here. Okay. Mean per unit. Mean just means average. And whose average do we count on? We count on our own average. Okay. So mean per unit says that every one of these should have the same amount, the one amount that we came up. So all 20,000 will have the same. It should be $30 each. So we're just going to take the audit average. I'm going to copy it. Teach you guys how to be lazy. Audit average times 20,000 sales equals what, 600,000? Oops. Okay, so we're saying that their sales should be 600,000. Are the sales overstated or understated? Is it 700? Is it overstating their sales or is it understating their sales? All right. And you know what? I was going to put them in M. Excuse me. Let me see how I did it in the previous one. Which it came first. I do the book value. Okay, I did the book value first. Oops. I meant to do. Okay, so the misstatement is 100,000. Overstated or understated? Oops. Oh, what did I do here? Hold on. It's overstated. That's right, it's overstated. Yeah, they have it at 700,000. We're saying it should be 600. Ratio estimation says there's a ratio between what is between misstatements. And the total book value is 700,000. Messy number. 6. Four. All right, this one is 700, 600. I'm just going to put that in total. You guys probably already did these. And the misstatement is overstatement. Difference estimation. This is the wacky one. More people miss this one than the other ones. Difference estimation says everything will be off by the same amount, $3. And so we'll say that all 20,000 are going to be off by $3. $60,000. So this is actually the misstatement, and this is that these are overstated. We're saying that these are higher than they should be. The audit average is 30. The book average is 33, so they have an extra 3 on it. So we're going to take off 60,000. So these are overstated. And so projected value for this one would be 700 minus the 60. Okay. Now there's one more I'm going to let you guys do on your own. You can turn it in, after you do that one. So this one, oops, where? Okay, we're problem 5 for homework. And turn in this handout. And I do want to go to the end though and clean up a few things. I think I talked about this, but maybe I did. So you guys can do this one on your own. And again, this is kind of the format they give you in the CPA exam. This is what they usually will have, is something along the lines of this. Okay. I think I covered this. Maybe I did. I must not have. It's not filled in. Mean per unit is appropriate when the things in the sample have a similar average. So if everything is around, well, I'll tell you, like when I was at US Steel, there's different types of steel. There's primary and secondary. But let's say secondary, that a secondary roll of steel, they would have a certain amount per ton, like $1,000 per ton or whatever it was. And pretty much all of it was the same. Now the steel was a little bit different in composition, but it was all valued about the same. That would be a perfect time to use mean per unit, because almost all of them were, I think it was like around $1,000 a ton or whatever it was. But so when they all have a similar average, it's appropriate to use that one. Ratio estimation is appropriate when the likely occur amounts that are proportional and let me clean this one up a little bit. I'm going to so this one is, it sort of means this. Basically, it means that they're in proportion to the size. So large items only have the larger errors, small items have the smaller errors. And I think this one is probably the one that's most likely for most populations. When I was doing auditing, I used this one almost exclusively. I used the mean per unit one also a little bit, but the ratio estimation, it just makes sense. A $50 account's not going to be off by $20,000. A $2 million account might be off by $50,000, but they go in proportion to the size. Difference estimation. Is appropriate when Errors in the sample will likely be for the same amount regardless of size. So it's kind of the opposite of ratio estimation. So large and small items will likely have the same error amounts. I don't think I ever used this one. Yeah, I mean, if it would have been appropriate, I would have. I don't think I ever did though. So difference estimation is when is appropriate when errors will be likely. So for instance, a $50,000 account may have a $100 error in it. A $200 account may have a $100 error in it because the error is related to shipping or something that's whatever it is. So if the item is likely to have the same error amount regardless of the size, then difference estimation is one to use. And the AICPA, they will generally test. They'll say which one would be more likely. They'll say if all the items have a similar amount, what might be a more appropriate method to use. They don't always do that. They generally tend to shy away from judgment, but if it's really obvious which one they should use, I believe I saw a couple questions like that on the CPA review about which method would be appropriate. But they generally, they don't test really on judgment too much. But and for instance, in a problem like these, we have doing the three methods. They're not going to ask you if it's material or not. They ask you what the misstatement is: understated, overstated by X dollars. That's usually what they look for: understated, overstated, in amount. They don't ask you, is that material? That's a judgment call. Some people might say it's material, some people might not. Okay, so go ahead and finish up that handout. You just got to do number 5 on your own. You may have already done it. And then just submit that in. Let me make sure I got that. Nope, not that. Nope, not that. Make sure I got that in. I don't. Yeah, here it is. This one. It says it's due on the 16th. Okay, yeah. So finish up number 5, and then you can turn that in. Okay. Any questions? Okay, I think you have a test due at the end of this week. So if you haven't done it already, I know some of you have already done it. If you haven't done it, make sure you get that in. Well, you can still turn it in late, but you're great to look bad until you do. Any questions? Okay, well, I'm going to go continue being sick somewhere. Sorry for being under the weather today. All right, I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Professor. Hope you feel better.
Thanks.